Hello, this is DJ Gel, and you are listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Didn't think I'd be here? Nope, I'm going to be here all summer. And on that note, happy summer to everybody. So, please stay tuned until noon for the news, the weather, and then, after a short break, GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. all summer long. So, I hope you look forward to that and enjoy. Until then, though, back to the diverse music for your diverse mind here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Thank you for listening. Hello, this is DJ Gel, and you're listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Please stay tuned until noon for the news, the weather, and after a short break, GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. and will be continuing all summer long. So please stay tuned and enjoy the diverse music for your diverse mind here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Coming up next is Follow You by Bring Me the Horizon. Please enjoy and stay tuned. Thank you. Currently, it is 79 degrees here on the campus of Florissant Valley Community College. I'm Gel with your noon news update. In local news, Missouri Senate approves Real ID bill. The Missouri Senate is approving a bill that would bring the state into compliance with the federal Real ID law. The bill was passed by the state Senate just after midnight this morning. The bill is now heading back to the Missouri House for approval. In order for it to become law, the bill must be submitted to Governor Eric Greitens by 6 o'clock on Friday evening, and then he needs to sign it. State House Senate approved DWI checkpoint bill. Missouri may cut funding for DWI checkpoints. The Missouri House and Senate have both approved a bill that would decrease funding for DWI checkpoints down to just $1 per year. The current budget for checkpoints is $20 million. Wow, that is a drop. It's now for Governor Eric Greitens as to whether the bill becomes law. And time for a piece of news I don't even need to tell you, but I will anyway. St. Louis called best baseball town in North America. St. Louis is being called the best baseball town in North America. The home of the St. Louis Cardinals ranked number one on a list compiled by Fox Sports senior writer Dieter Kurtenbach. Chicago was ranked third, and Kansas City came in at 11th, which makes me wonder what number two is. I'm going to guess New York, maybe? Yeah, whatever, we're number one. On to national news. Trump discusses Comey on Twitter. President Trump is not shying away from discussing his decision to fire FBI Director James Comey. Trump went on Twitter this morning and said, quote, Comey lost the confidence of almost everyone in Washington, Republican and Democrat alike. He predicted that, quote, when things calm down, they will be thanking me. Trump is also calling out Democrats who criticized the firing. He tweeted, quote, the Democrats have said some of the worst things about James Comey, but now they play so sad. Moving on. Spicer, Afghanistan goal to eliminate security threat. It's not yet clear what steps President Trump might take in the 15-year-old effort in Afghanistan. There are reports Trump is considering sending another 5,000 U.S. troops to help address growing concerns about the Taliban. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer told a briefing yesterday the goal is to eliminate security threats in that country. He did not offer specifics. In addition to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, officials are worried about ISIS gaining more of a foothold in Afghanistan. And no vote on fetal personhood bill. New Hampshire lawmakers won't be voting on a bill that would define a fetus as a human being. A committee decided yesterday not to bring the bill to the full House for a vote. Supporters say the legislation would allow the state to prosecute careless drivers after women lose a pregnancy in a car accident, but opponents say it could jeopardize access to abortion. And more former frat members arraigned. 8 more former frat members of a Penn State fraternity are awaiting trial after being arraigned yesterday on criminal charges. They're each accused of playing a role in the death earlier this year of a 19-year-old pledge who drank heavily and fell down a flight of stairs. Authorities say no one called for help until it was too late. The young men face charges that include tampering with evidence, reckless endangerment, and hazing in the death of Timothy Piazza of New Jersey. 10 other frat brothers were arraigned last week. And study, dairy not bad for heart. Cheese and cream aren't really bad for your heart after all. Researchers from England's Reading University looked at 35 years' worth of studies and found that consumption of dairy products, even high-fat versions, does not increase the risk of heart attack or stroke. Researcher Ian Givens of... Well, that's blank. Researcher Ian Given of says there's a widespread belief among the public that dairy products are bad for you, but, quote, that's a misconception. The study appears in the European Journal of Epidemiology. Whew. That is a well-written news brief there. Thank you, my source. Now then, on to the weather. Where'd my weather go? Good news, it's a beautiful day today. It's mostly cloudy, but we got a high of 86, low of 69. Okay, it's going to be kind of hot later. Tomorrow, high of 75, low of 56, and it'll still be mostly cloudy. Friday, partly cloudy, high of 71, low of 52. Saturday, sunny, high of 78, low of 56. Sunday, sunny, high of 81, low of 60. We're looking at beautiful weather. That said, I am seeing a river flood warning. That's a really old river flood warning. That's for Monday. Even still, I'm looking at this radar, and even though it says it's just partly cloudy and there's no predictions of precipitation, we kind of have what looks like a wall of precipitation coming in. So I'd like to know about that. Keep an umbrella handy, just to be sure, okay? Anyway, that concludes our news and weather. Now, we are going to take a short break, kicking you back to the music for Calling Out Your Name by Minutes to Midnight, a local artist. And then when we get back, we will have GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. So please stay tuned and enjoy the diverse music for your diverse mind here on 89.5 FM, KCFV, The Wave. Hello, you are listening to 89.5 FM, KCFV, The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m., and will continue to do so all summer long. I'm your host, Jell, and it's time for the latest game releases, when I remember where my mouse went. Boom! So, what came out this week? Let's start with PlayStation 4. First of all, Birthday's the Beginning, which is actually sort of a world-building god game type of thing. You're like an alien in charge of a cube-shaped world, and you, like, create the right conditions for life, and then creatures pop up, and looks pretty good. Has been a while since we had that. Other than that, Blade and Bones, Bloons TD5, Butcher, Elliot Quest, which is going to pop up a lot, which is kind of a Kid Icarus-looking indie game with a really low resolution. Harvest Moon, Save the Homeland, probably a PS2 classic, I assume. Human, Fall Flat. Last Stitch Goodnight. Lethal League, yes, that classic is finally on PS4. Loco Roco. Moonshot Galaxy, which is a PlayStation VR, it's like a golf game, except you grab, it's played with moons. It's a golf game where you play it with on moons that you grab and rotate to manipulate the it's weird. NBA Playgrounds, apparently that's downloadable. Polybius, which, we will be talking about that later. Resident Evil Code Veronica X. I assume a PS2 classic again. Revenant Saga, which is one of Kemco's monthly JRPGs. They release those all the time on iPhone and Android, especially Android. They decided to port one to the PS4, but that's why the graphics look so PS1-ish. Rhyme and Strafe. Also, tomorrow, Arcade Archives Neo Geo, The King of Fighters 95, and then the day after that we got Demon's Crystals, which is some kind of twin-stick shooter. Moving on, what's going on with Xbox One? Xbox One this week, Forza Horizon 3 got, I guess, some Hot Wheels DLC, also NBA Playgrounds. And today it's getting Butcher, Lethal League, and Narcosis. In 2 days, so Friday, Demon's Crystals, Elliot Quest, and Human Fall Flat will also be coming to Xbox One. Let's see. PlayStation Vita got Revenant Saga, and the 3DS will be getting Elliot Quest tomorrow. Now, on to next week. This is where things start getting interesting. Cripes, I wish I had more money. So, next week, PlayStation 4, Akiba's Beat comes out, which it's kind of a spin-off of Akiba's Trip. It looks a lot like a Tales of game, which is good. I was kind of disappointed in the battle system for Berseria, so seeing something that looks a lot closer to Tales of Classic makes me happy, even though the last time we had someone else trying the Tales of battle system, it was Summon Night Swordcraft Story. That did not go well. So, Akiba's Beat. Then, Baila Latino, which is kind of a Just Dance ripoff with Latin music. And Just Dance is garbage, so I don't see this being much better. Farpoint, which is like the big PlayStation VR game. If you're unfamiliar, Farpoint is a PlayStation VR game that's going to come with a special controller called the PlayStation Aim controller. It's actually shaped like a machine gun and has an analog stick on the back, and it's a first-person shooter where you're running around on an alien world and fighting giant enemy crab monsters and giant robots and things. And I know a bunch of people are going to say, why does it require VR? But I'm hearing some interesting things about how it feels to have, like, the camera and aiming with the gun actually be two separate things, which, is what you can do in VR. And from my limited experience playing, Mortal Blitz, I can safely confirm, yeah, that's a thing. And of course, the biggest one, Injustice 2, will be coming out next week, and I got a rant about that too. Also The Surge. And then, I think Portal Knights will also be out. I thought Portal Knights was already out. I'm confused, but apparently that'll be out next week as well. How about that Xbox One, eh? So, next week, Xbox One is looking at Injustice 2 and The Surge, along with Black and White Bushido and Tango Fiesta. And then, let's see, the Wii U next week will get Pinball, all caps. I don't even know. It looks like an indie game. PlayStation Vita next week will be getting Akiba's Beat as well, along with Operation Babel, New Tokyo Legacy, which looks kind of interesting. And ladies, Hakuoki Kyoto Winds will be out next week. If you're unfamiliar, Hakuoki is a dating sim for the ladies involving sexy samurai men. So, that's coming out. And yes, it is a long-running series. Alright, and on 3DS, well, relatively long-running. I think it dates back to the PSP. Whatever. There's been, at least 3 entries. Anyway, 3DS. Next week, Cooking Mama Sweet Shop comes out. Along with, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. Nice. And that should conclude our upcoming games for next week. Now, as for anime, let me double-check this, but I forgot to double-check this, but My Neighbor Totoro should be in theater. Yes! This Friday and Saturday, My Neighbor Totoro will be at the Tivoli. The Friday showing will be at 11:55 p.m., and then the Saturday showing, they'll have one at noon and at 11:55 p.m. So if you want to see Totoro in theaters, that is this weekend. If you're not busy at Anime STL. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I heard something about this. If you still haven't seen Your Name, good news, it is still at the Tivoli until tomorrow. Today, it is going to be at the Tivoli at 4:25 p.m., 7:05 p.m., and 9:35 p.m. And tomorrow, same times, 4:25, 7:05, and 9:35. So, if you want to see Your Name in theaters, it will be there today and tomorrow. And actually, geez, the Tivoli, you could do a double feature. If you, I need to let me think. It's a 2-hour movie, 9, 10, 11, yeah, okay. So what you do, you go to the Tivoli, tomorrow, wait a second. Crap, no. Okay, never mind. I had a plan, and then it was shot down, because Friday is not tomorrow. I'm bad with time, hi. I was gonna say, you just go tomorrow, and you see the Totoro, no, you can't. Your Name is today and tomorrow. Totoro is the day after that, and the day after that. Okay, got that clarified. Anyway, I think I should send you back to the music for a song or two, and then we will get back and start talking video game news and stuff. That concludes the Anime in Theaters report for right now. I gotta keep my eyes peeled, because there's gotta be more anime coming to theaters. So, that concludes our Anime in Theaters report, and our new releases report. And I'll see you after a brief musical break. Coming up next is I Only Asked His Name by Matt Wynn, a local artist. Please enjoy and stay tuned to 89.5 FM KCFE The Wave for more diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. This is 89.5 The Wave, KCFV, and I'm your host, Jell. Now then, back to where we were. We were gonna crack into some video game news. Well, let's see. They revealed the newest character for Street Fighter V, which is Ed. New guy. Kind of a thing. Let's see. The game Eterno Blade. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's been on 3DS, Vita, PS4. It's been on a lot of things. Well, let's get the sequel. And the sequel will be on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Interestingly, that game is made in Thailand. Good times. Also, Vanquish is coming to PC May 25th. Good times. Injustice 2. The first round of DLC characters will be Red Hood, Sub-Zero, and Starfire. And for the record, it is very much comic book Starfire, not TV show Starfire. If you're not familiar with the difference, you're in for a big surprise. Also, next DOA 5 costumes are rodeo costumes. And last but most certainly not least, the VGCW is over. Ended yesterday because the 2K14 server, the WWE 2K14 servers are down, and that's sort of stunting its growth, and they figure they can't really continue the show. If you're unfamiliar, VGCW is a surprisingly popular show where they use custom characters based on different video game characters and have them wrestle. And sometimes they commentate, and they use the story creator to make storylines. And it's all just dumb fanfic nonsense, but the production quality is, like, just high enough to draw a good 1,500 viewers and stuff when they stream. That's certainly how many were on there as they did their final stream. They figure someone might pick it up in the future, but the problem is, of course, there's a lot of features that were in WWE 2K14 that have not yet been translated into the newer games, and like I said, servers are down, so they can't really, like, get any more characters, and they're severely limited in what they can do. It's one of the problems of gaming today. Anyway, I mentioned earlier that Polybius is out for PSVR, and Polybius is an interesting game with an interesting story, because originally there was this urban legend of a game called Polybius, which supposedly came out in 1981 in Portland, Oregon, and was secretly like a government brainwashing experiment, and it caused kids to go crazy when they played it. Now, this game is not real. There are some theories that it might have been a prototype version of the game Tempest, but Polybius, the 1981 version, does not actually exist. But a number of people have tried to use the descriptions of it to try to recreate it, and most of those recreations are actually really dumb and boring and stupid. Seriously, I've watched a few of them, and I'm just like, this wouldn't be nearly as fun or addictive as it should be. But this Polybius doesn't really follow that so much as it is just made by Jeff Minter, and nearly any game made by Jeff Minter could be described as Polybius. Now, who is Jeff Minter? Well, Jeff Minter is a guy who's been coding games since the Commodore 64 era, lives in Wales, likes sheep and llamas and stuff. His company's called LlamaSoft. And like I said, he's been programming games since the Commodore 64 era. He mostly rose to prominence, though, with the release of the game Tempest 2000 on the Atari Jaguar, as well as doing the music visualizer for the Jaguar CD. Tempest 2000 wound up being a huge hit. I believe it was ported to PS1 and Saturn. People loved it because he took The old game Tempest added some crazy techno-electronic music and psychedelic visuals. It really punched it up, and it was a good time. He also made Defender 2000 on the Jaguar. Then he did the audio visualizer as well as Tempest 3000 for the Nuon, which if you want to talk about a game system you don't know about, that's the Nuon. Ooh, that's a whole other story. And then went on to do the music visualizer and a game called Space Giraffe on the Xbox 360. Anyway, Minter's signature style, he loves the game Tempest. He's done some non-Tempest-y games, but he loves the game Tempest. His signature visual style is crazy rainbow psychedelic colors. That's what he always does. In fact, if you've ever seen we've remade this retro game, but now with crazy rainbow psychedelic colors, yeah, they're all inspired by Jeff Minter. He's the guy who, pioneered that visual style for retro game remakes. And, yeah, that's a good primer of who Minter is. He's relatively infamous. He has a cult fan base. Unfortunately, his most recent game was a Vita game called TXK, which was very Tempest-like. And he was just about to bring it out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and a bunch of other systems, and he was going to add in a bunch of features, it was going to have PlayStation VR support, and it was going to be amazing. And then Atari, who is bankrupt and out of business, somehow still has lawyers laying around. So they got zombie lawyers to attack Jeff Minter, and even though the game was done, it was prevented from being released, and he had to sign a contract saying that he will never make a Tempest-like game ever again. And that's his bread and butter, so that really sucks. But you can't keep a good Minter down, and he decided to work on a game called Polybius, named, of course, after the urban legend. Now, Polybius is more of a... If you know your super obscure retro games, it's more like Midway's Blaster or the freeware game Tourist Trooper. It's a game where you have a ship going forward through a flat plane or a tunnel or all sorts of different shapes, but you're constantly rushing forward, you're stuck to the ground, and you shoot straight ahead at various obstacles in your way, while also going through these gateways made of ox horns, because of course. Now, that seems all very basic, and it is. That's usually how things are with Minter games. They seem basic on the surface. However, the longer you can go without crashing into anything, the faster you start going. And it just keeps going faster and faster and faster until you slam into something. And the speeds it gets to are utterly ludicrous. And on top of that, everything is psychedelic and made of flashing rainbow colors. The stages are full of just random geometric shapes flying at you. And on top of that, there tends to be, and this is what makes it interesting compared to other Minter games, each of the game's 50 stages has some kind of unique twist. You'll be going through one stage, and they'll say, oh, shoot the cows for bonus points. And there are these rainbow flashing cows. Minter likes cows, too. Yeah, there are rainbow flashing cows on top of these destructible pillars. So if you destroy the pillars, the cows will fall down and start shooting just sparkles at you. And if you shoot the cow, you get bonus points. Okay. Well, later on, there's a stage where, don't miss the fried eggs. You're like, what? And then later, these sunny side up eggs will just start shooting across the stage. And if you don't shoot one of them, if one of them gets away, it'll tell you, oh no, you missed a fried egg. Oh dear. And it's like, what? But okay. And that's generally one of the better things about the game, is that each stage is not only shaped differently. The first stage is a completely flat plane. The second stage is a tube. The third stage, you're on the outside of the tube. And all those add different twists to the gameplay, and each one, there tends to be, maybe a unique enemy or two. There's usually a unique gimmick, and it all comes together to make it one of the deeper and more interesting of Jeff Minter's games. And yeah, on top of that, when you shoot certain things, it'll cause more rainbow colors and things to flash. The faster you go, the higher your accuracy. There's a bunch of stuff that will just cause the game to go crazy. Now, here's the important thing. a lot of people looked at this game and it's been advertised heavily as a PlayStation VR game. And it does have PlayStation VR support and runs at 120 FPS, and yeah, it is super crispy regardless of what system you're running it on. I mean, the game is made of unshaded, flat polygons, and not a whole lot of them. It is not taxing the PS4 at all. But as such, it doesn't require VR. You can actually play it outside of VR, and if you have a PlayStation Pro, if you have a PS4 Pro, you can put it on a 4K TV, and regardless of your PS4, you can also play it in 3D on a 3D TV. So if the VR is too much, but you still want, like, a crazy effect, you can play it in 3D. It is also worth mentioning that every time you start the game up, it gives you 5 epilepsy warnings. I'm not even kidding. Like, it'll give you a warning screen. It's like, okay, click the flashing thing to confirm. Are you sure? Click the other flashing thing to confirm. Are you really sure? You want me to... Okay. So, wow. It kind of needs it. My only beef with it so far is Stage 9. Stage 9 sucks. And I actually had to ask Jeff Minter, what do I do in Stage 9? Because I was doing good. First run through, made it all the way to Stage 9, had 9 shields, everything was going great. And then Stage 9, you're on the outside of kind of a half pillar, and there are flags. And I was like, wow, those are big, giant flags. Do I collect them? So I ran into a flag, and I collected it, and I was like, okay, that's good. And I collected like 2 or 3 flags, and then I run into another flag, and bam, I take damage. I'm like, why can't I collect that flag? So now I'm trying to figure out the pattern. Eventually I get fed up with it, and I stop collecting flags, and I start just taking damage randomly, and I lose. Come to find out, and I went through a couple times trying to solve the mystery. Come to find out, the top of the flag is pointing in a direction, and that's the direction you're supposed to go. So you're supposed to, slalom right and left and right and left and right as you go through these things, or you take damage. And that's where I have an issue. Because unlike with the fried eggs, there was no on-screen text to give me a hint. I mean, the stage is called, oscillate. But that doesn't give me any hint as to what I'm supposed to be doing. When I started taking damage, there was no hint there. And the game loves to just put text everywhere. So when I took damage, they could have said something like, wrong way, idiot. And then I would have been like, well, what's the right way? Well, maybe I should go in the direction the flag is pointing. But above all else, I don't think I should have taken damage at all. The game got me in a very nice Zen-like state up until Stage 9. I was really going along super fast. Everything was great. It was pretty much just hold down the fire button and point yourself at any flashing shapes, which are all of them, because they're all out to get you and they all need to be blown up. Just shoot everything. Great. Wonderful. Got me in a great Zen-like state, and then all of a sudden I just start taking damage? They should give me bonus points for being on the right side, but they shouldn't damage me for being on the wrong side, I don't think. And I think that's where the game design kind of falters, just a smidge. Going past that stage, though, now that I know how to clear it, it's actually very nice. Also, I really love the quote-unquote LlamaSoft patented Restart Best feature, which sounds weird. Again, remember this is an old arcadey style game, and there's multiple modes. There is a mode where, you start from stage 1, no restart best. But what restart best means is that you can go back to the last stage you made it to with whatever your best score and lives were. So when I lost at stage 9, I could keep retrying and I would have my 9 lives back because that was the best I made it there. Unfortunately, that stage was still really difficult, and when I made it to the next stage, I only had 3 lives left, and that's my restart best there. But if I go back to stage 9 and do it better, maybe I can keep my 9 lives going into stage 10, which is something I'm probably going to try because I did stage 11 and 12, and I've been losing and continuing to get through the next couple stages, so it's I think I'm going to need those shields back. But then again, it was past midnight last time I tried that. I will say, the effect is very trippy, and I'm so glad it does not require VR. This is a game that is a good example of just, how VR can enhance the experience without actually changing much of anything, because seeing these trippy visuals on a regular TV is one thing. But when you're surrounded by psychedelia, you're it's a whole other experience, not to mention in 3D, so everything is just zooming by you, and there's rainbow colors. I was pretty dizzy afterwards. It was good times. Thankfully, I don't get motion sick. I've heard a few people say that they normally get motion sick, but this didn't affect them, which is shocking. But it's good that it doesn't require it, because I think a lot of PlayStation VR owners are going to hear about this thing, give it a try, and find out that it might make them physically ill. So they'll still be able to play it just without the VR. So it won't be a waste of money. I think that's good. I think that's very good. So that's what the deal is with Polybius. Let's see, what kind of time I got? I got some time left, so I can complain about Injustice 2. I'm complaining about Injustice 2. Because I wanted to pick that game up. And I admit, part of the reason was because of the Power Girl skin that they were going to have. However, come to find out, the Power Girl skin is not included in the regular edition. It's one of those, and it's not the pre-order bonus. Pre-order bonus is the ability to play as final boss. Okay, fine, whatever. Well, let's get the next edition up. Well, unfortunately, the next edition up is the Digital Deluxe Edition, which is exactly what I want. It's $20 more. I get the first DLC pack. Okay, I can go with that. Guess what? It's the Digital Deluxe Edition, which means I need to buy it digitally. Well, I'm strongly against that. I only buy physical copies. Well, the only physical copy that comes with the Power Girl skin is the Ultimate Edition, which comes with more stuff. That one comes with 9 DLC characters on top of on top of 3 costumes, but it costs $100. I'm not paying. I don't have the money to pay $100 for Injustice 2. Well, some people researched, and apparently Fighter Pack 1, which has which is like the season pass for the first 3 DLC characters, comes with the Power Girl skin. Okay, that's good, but the question is, can I buy that separately? Or is it going to be, oh, this is hidden for a while, unless you buy this is just for the Digital Deluxe Edition? And unfortunately, there's no clear answer on that. And these are all things that piss me off. Because I'm like, I want to play this game, but the character I want to play as is locked behind so much pre-order DLC special edition nonsense that I think I'm going insane. So I'm trying to figure out my plan of attack there, and I don't know, maybe the Digital Deluxe Edition will stay up past release, like, maybe that doesn't have to be pre-ordered? I'm hoping. If that's the case, I'll just wait until launch day and see what DLC packs they put up. So if they, I don't know. It's all dumb. Almost as dumb as Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That's just disgusting. I mentioned this in the previous one, but Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is trying to sell us on 6 DLC characters, one of which will be Sigma, before the game is even out, before they've even revealed what the regular roster is. We don't know how many characters are in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. We don't know. I'm sorry for the abrupt topic change, but still, like I said, Injustice, that's got me pretty angry. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has me even more angry because they're trying to sell us on a $100 special edition without even revealing who all the characters in the regular edition are. But, oh, Sigma's going to be a DLC character. There's going to be 6 DLC characters. Well, that's great. Who's in the regular roster? You're jumping the gun, Capcom. And on top of that, they have the $200 special edition where it's like, oh, you get figures and glowing infinity stones in a box. No! Capcom, stop it! This is all so disgusting, I've lost, like, almost all interest in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It is going to take so much Sansan to get me to care about this game. And I don't know what they're going to do. I'm, on top of the fact that it comes out in September, and that's way too early considering how recently it's been revealed, so I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is going to be the next Street Fighter V, which, if you haven't heard, is kind of a flop and everyone hates it. Too many shenanigans. Hey, I just remembered. Speaking of fighting games, though, Tekken 7, they finally showed the VR mode for that. It will be the character model viewer, but you will also be able to play training mode in a completely empty stage in VR. The question is, will there be versus computer in a completely empty stage in VR? Because I'd like that. And I will admit, that's actually better than I expected, because I only expected the model viewer. Tekken 7 is not really a VR game. It's a game that I think a lot of us were going to buy regardless of VR. VR is kind of a bonus mode, and you're probably saying, but why only an empty stage? Well, remember, in VR, you have to display two separate images. It's like doing split screen. And on top of that, it needs to maintain a minimum solid 60 FPS. You can't do 30 in VR, because otherwise people start getting motion sick and stuff. And as such, it's like, oh wow, if we doubled the amount of what we're showing with a full background, it would cause issues. I mean, as it is on a regular PS4, Tekken 7 will not be running at 1080p. It'll be running at 720p. So, yeah, it would be an issue in VR. But it's bonus mode, whatever. And this is sort of the month of fighting games, isn't it? Because we've also got Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator 2 coming out soon as both a DLC expansion pack and as a full-boxed game. And I swear there was one other game. I mean, I know we're getting Ultra Street Fighter 2 for the Nintendo Switch, which is the most pointless thing ever and a gigantic ripoff. Because it's just the HD remix with Evil Ryu and Violent Ken thrown in and like a bonus motion-controlled minigame. They're charging like $50 for a game that came out like 5 years ago for $20. It's like, yeah, nope, Capcom, freaking Capcom. Everyone's starting to really hate Capcom at this point. They've been screwing up badly. Woo! Anyway, let's see. Let's get us back to some music, shall we? Because we're coming up on the top of the hour. That means it's almost, almost time for music again. So, let's, just do that. Coming up next is What Are We Fighting For by Building Rome, followed by Lock and Key by Late Night's Vice. Please enjoy the music here on 89.5 FM KCFV, The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and I will be back in a couple minutes. I mean, around 1 o'clock-ish. So I'll see you then. Please enjoy. Hello, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. I'm your host, Jell. So, before the break, we did our... Well, let's see, we kicked the show off by talking about the newest game releases. Then we talked about what anime is in theaters, which basically, your name is still at the Tivoli until tomorrow, Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, they've got My Neighbor Totoro, also at the Tivoli. Tivoli likes to do anime. So, that's what we got coming up. Also, the Totoros are at midnight on Friday and noon and midnight on Saturday. Anyway, after that, did some headlines, talked about how annoyed I am at the Injustice 2 release, as well as talking about the game Polybius, which is out for PlayStation 4, PSVR compatible, but not required. Very trippy, just hate Stage 9. So, let's move right along to something very interesting I found. Namely, China is really getting into the anime game. Or Chinamation? What do we call Chinese anime, anyway? We don't have a term for it yet. We don't normally watch just straight animation from China. But there's a new show coming out of China called Quanji Gao Show, or The King's Avatar, which is what you're going to look for it on YouTube as. The King's Avatar is a very interesting series, because it is actually about esports. More specifically, esports MMOs. The game itself is made up. It's called Glory, but of course there's a mobile game kind of based on it. But Glory is a made-up game, but it's like kind of consists of pieces of other games. Like, I see a lot of Dungeon Fighter Online references in it, and I think I see a few Blade and Soul references, since those are both MMOs with action combat, where the PvP is actually played competitively on an esports level, especially Dungeon Fighter Online, which is a personal favorite of mine. But anyway, the King's Avatar is about a guy who was the best at playing Glory. He's been playing since the game launched 10 years ago. And, like, he's a legend in the esports industry. However, his team hasn't been doing that well. So they conspire and force him into retirement. And on top of that, he has to give up his account to the new leader of the team. So, new leader of the team has the King's Avatar. And this guy, come to find out, in China, a lot of the companies have company dorms. So when you work at the company, that's also your house, and that was the case here. So he's out of the team, and he's also homeless in the middle of winter. So walks a little ways, finds an internet cafe, takes a job there as their night manager, and the 10th server for the game Glory is opening up that day. So he's like, yo, what, why not? I'll create a new account, make a new character, and start fresh, and maybe I'll come back in a year, because when you retire, you have to take at least a year hiatus before you come back. Part of the reason why he was fired, and this is what makes the show interesting, I forgot to mention this, is the fact that people think he's getting too old at 25 years old, which, for us, that seems very, very young, but, yeah, no, but in anime, that's friggin' ancient, and in terms of esports, I don't even know, but, yeah, like, the idea is that since he's, he started playing when he was 15, and since he's 25 now, maybe his fingers just aren't as fast as they used to be. What makes the show interesting is the fact that it uses esports terminology without, like, any concessions. Like, it's just like, if you, like, the audience is just supposed to know esports. So they use terms like aggro and APM and OT without, like, actually explaining them. OT got explained. That's apparently overthreat. And that's where, like, you have... It represents when you get too aggroed. I guess there's a few games who have that as a mechanic. And it's interesting because it's like, oh, wow, they're actually taking game mechanics into account in this show. They're actually... It's very much meant for an esports audience because esports are big in China. So, yeah, it makes sense. You've got this anime-ish thing about esports, and they're actually treating it like that's what's actually going on here. And it's a surprisingly addictive show. When I found out about it, I watched the 5 episodes they had available without stopping. I mentioned searching it up on YouTube. The nice thing is, the company that actually produces it, which is Tencent, which apparently is like one of the biggest companies in the world. I've bumped into them a few times. But Tencent is actually putting the episodes up with English subtitles on their YouTube channel. Subtitles are a smidge rough, but they get the job done. They're not terrible. Moon Dwellers was worse, and Moon Dwellers was perfectly readable. So there's a good chunk of typos and a few wonky bits, but they're decent subs, especially when you consider how complex the Chinese language is. There is, of course, a Reddit for this show, and I was trying to read this Reddit, and someone had a thread explaining the character names, because they have kind of odd names, like the avatars especially, like the main character's avatar's name is One Autumn Leaf. And I'm like, what? Come to find out, like, each character's name is like a bit of classical poetry? I don't know, it's really complex and weird. And someone from China tried to explain it, and I'm like, wow, that's complex and baffling, but okay. And it's like, this would be a nightmare to translate, wouldn't it? So I'll just take what Tencent gives me in terms of the translation, but it's very interesting. One more thing that's interesting about it, though, is the way they do some of the backgrounds. Sometimes they use CG for the backgrounds, and sometimes they actually use live-action footage of environments for backgrounds, which should look terrible, but somehow the King's Avatar actually pulls it off and makes it look pretty darn good. Again, surprisingly watchable show. And, it's about esports. Now, I found it weirdly enjoyable The fact that I happen to be such a fan of Dungeon Fighter probably helps, because I'm pretty certain that inspired this game heavily, since, like, almost all the classes are Dungeon Fighter classes. I know a lot of the skills, some of the designs are very familiar. Not 100%, but close enough that you're like, oh yeah, no, that's a male fighter. Oh wow, his class is Brawler, because he's using claws and throwing bricks and sand. Yes. But yeah, I found The King's Avatar to be a weirdly enjoyable show. Speaking of hacking and slashing, Dynasty Warriors 9 has been revealed to be open world. And I'm more than a little worried. Now, the Dynasty Warriors series, I've nicknamed it the Madden of Japan. People always give it crap because they produce a lot of Dynasty Warriors games. And a lot of people find them to be very samey. But Koei Tecmo is actually a surprisingly ambitious company, and they do actually evolve their games more than people give them credit. And it is because of this evolution that their games do get better, and they're willing to experiment and try new things. With Dynasty Warriors 9, which is going to be the first one made, like the first of the core Dynasty Warriors series made for the PS4, Xbox One generation, they're going to try to do open world. They're going to try to have it where you have this big old map of China, and you're participating in battles all over it, traveling everywhere, towns along the way, battles happening simultaneously. It's supposed to be, like, quite a thing. And on paper, that sounds really neat. In fact, they even did a test run of that in Dragon Quest Heroes 2, which has a much smaller little open world you can run around in, beat up monsters, and take quests. So it's like, okay, this could work out for Dynasty Warriors 9 on the surface. I keep reading it, and they're like, oh, we're going to have more period-appropriate character designs and things. It's like, uh-oh. I remember last time you tried this. That was called Dynasty Warriors 6. That was a bad idea. Dynasty Warriors 6 was terrible. No one liked it. Like, seriously. Because they dumbed down the combat, and they took away all the cool character designs. There were less characters, and people didn't like it. And what you have to understand about Dynasty Warriors is that there are three things people really like about Dynasty Warriors. Number one is the local split-screen co-op. Number two is the huge roster of characters. And number three is the combat. And I'm worried that Koei Tecmo is forgetting that again. Because when I see this game, which is still a good ways off from release, I'm like, are you going to be able to do split-screen with that? With the big open world? I don't think you are. That's been one of my big disappointments with a lot of the recent Dynasty Warriors games is the lack of split screen. I used to be able to count on that, but Berserk Band of the Hawk didn't have split screen, and neither did Dragon Quest Heroes. Dragon Quest Heroes 2 added in some online multiplayer, but that's nice, but it's a little too limited, and I want my split screen back. Like, I'm worried they don't realize that people play the Warriors games because they were some of the last games to still have local split-screen co-op. You take that away, you lose a big chunk of at least the Western audience. Because if you talk to Western fans, the co-op has consistently been a selling point for the series. More realistic character designs means that we're worried that they're going to have less characters. Of course, it's always a possibility. But also, we worry about less weapons. One of the nice things about Dynasty Warriors is that it didn't really care too much about historical accuracy, and it went hog wild with the weapons. One of the characters, for example, fights with a giant magic paintbrush that can paint Chinese characters, and they would, like, just be magic. You know, he writes lightning, and lightning shoots, and he can paint a tiger, and it'll pounce the enemy. And, that's great. That is good times, and obviously that's completely unrealistic. And as such, it's like, would you put that character in the game? Because I think that character was actually like a poet or a painter or something that was just famous from the period, and they were like, hey, we'll just put him in here because we can. And yeah, I think... And then the descriptions of the combat system where they're talking about how things change depending on the situation, I'm like, is this combat gonna still be good? Because I know a lot of people think of Dynasty Warriors as like a mindless button masher, and it is for the most part. But there are deeper elements to it, which can be utilized and, make the combat system more fun and enjoyable. And the last time they tried to drastically change the combat system with Dynasty Warriors 6, they dumbed it down into a pile of mush. Dynasty Warriors 6 was so bad. I cannot stress how bad 6 was. It is... The game was abysmal. This is coming from someone who really loves Dynasty Warriors, in case you couldn't tell. So I am legitimately concerned about 9. Having said that, I only have a little bit of worry because, of course, they produce like 3 Dynasty Warriors games a year. So we still, at the very least, have Muso All-Stars on the horizon, which is just a crazy crossover Dynasty Warriors game. So even if Dynasty Warriors 9 winds up terrible, we've got another one coming out sooner that'll likely be better if this one winds up flopping. But you never know. Maybe they'll actually pull it off and it'll turn out great. And if it doesn't, pro tip, Dynasty Warriors Strike Force 3, please. Because, I'm sorry, Dynasty Warriors Strike Force is underrated and brilliant. That game was great. It was Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live here on 89.5 FM KCFV, the way of diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell. This is GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show, which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. Now, I wonder how many people are going to give me crap for recommending a Chinese TV show. China is, like, such a weirdly controversial thing, and I'm not going to say they don't do dumb things. Trust me, this is still video game related. Come to find out, the Chinese release for Yakuza 6 is being mildly censored because one of the characters mentioned that Taiwan is a country. Apparently, it is illegal in China to refer to Taiwan as a country. Because, according to China, Taiwan is still a part of China. But according to Taiwan, they are a separate country. Is this how it works? Can I just take Canada? Guess what? Canada's part of Jelzakistan now. And if anyone tells me otherwise, it's illegal. I own Canada now. It's mine. It is a part of my country, which is Jelzakistan, which is 10-foot radius around me. I now own Canada. Went well. It's just, I'm sorry, that's just kind of stupid to me. My mind is blown by this fact, in fact. By the way, did I mention that KOF 14 is coming to PC? There's going to be a beta later this month. I don't know, that one kind of annoys me. Because it's like, do consoles even get exclusives now? Like, there is almost no point in owning a console if you have a really powerful computer and don't mind the inherent headaches. Like, every console exclusive winds up getting ported to PC eventually. You just have to be patient. It usually takes about a year, and then, yeah, it's on PC. And then the ports aren't always very good. I don't know. It's just weird. You make... It's kind of the thing that really pissed me off, too, because before this generation, everyone was complaining because consoles weren't enough like PCs. So this generation stars in both Microsoft and Sony make their consoles more like PCs, which would make PC porting easier, and everyone's like, yay! And now, no one buys Xbox Ones and PS4s because they're just PCs and they have a better PC. Again, if I didn't hate PCs on a personal level, I would probably do this. This is because PCs give me no end of stupid crap. And it's really frustrating because I'll describe all the numerous problems I have with my PC, and people look at me and be like, wow, you need to, like, upgrade. Like, I had a friend of mine tell me, a new PC is, like, only $300. It's like, dude, I have, like, $1,000 laptop here. It's pretty beefy. It's better than, like, a $300 computer, I assure you. It's just that it acts stupid. And people are like, wow, sounds like your computer's broken and you need a new... No. This is how computers act for me. Because I'm too ambitious. I try to do too many things with my computer. Because I'm like, hey, a computer can do this, then I can make it do this. And then I tend to push them to their logical limits and utterly baffle them. I don't know. me and computers do not get along because I try to do too many things with them, and there's a bunch of just stupid flaws. I need to just rant about that in a separate video or something. Speaking of things to rant about in separate videos, did I mention that 1985 got knocked out of the Game FAQ's best year in gaming in the first round? The good news is that 1998 is doing good, because 1998 should, of course, win. But I am very disappointed, and I admit, this is because there's, like, Game FAQs did not do a very good job of explaining why these years were important. They just listed, hey, there's the big games that came out that year. And even the 1998 one's kind of crap, because they're like, oh, Pokemon came out this year. It's like, no, Pokemon kind of came out in 1996, if you want to talk about the Japanese release. But 1998 is kind of when, a bunch of fighting games came out. Isn't that when Marvel vs. Capcom came out? I'm pretty certain that's when Street Fighter 3 came out. I know, that's when... Didn't Power Stone come out that year as well? Along, and Sonic Adventure, technically, in Japan. 1998 was a really, Soul Calibur 1 in Japan as well. 1998 was a really good year. There's a reason why people usually call that the best year in gaming. But I'm disappointed because, 1985 should have come in second, I think. And it didn't. And I need to make a video explaining that, because, people just see, oh, well, this is the year Super Mario Brothers and Space Harrier came out, but hey, this is the year that Zelda came out, and this game came out, and this game, it's like, no, there's a little more to it. Because 1985 represents such a huge technological leap. It's massive. It's probably the biggest technological leap in the history of video games is 1985. You see, that year was the year that Super Mario Brothers came out, and Nintendo was like, you should make the Mario sprite bigger to show off the fact that we can do bigger sprites now with our new technology. And they were like, oh, well, we'll have him grab a mushroom and he gets bigger to really show it off. He starts small, then he gets bigger. That was, the reason behind Super Mario. That exact same year Space Harrier came out, and that game it took a decade before home consoles could match those visuals. If you told me that aliens invaded in 1985 and gave us their space graphics technology, I would believe you. It is that ludicrous when you look at it. And so many things happened that year. So I need to, really sit down and look at that year and try to do a video explaining why 1985 should win second place. Even though it won't, because it got knocked out in the first round because it was up against 1987. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of video game history research, and 85 is stupidly... Isn't that the year that NES was released in America? Again, important. Game-changing. It's when consoles came back to America after the video game crash of 1983. I'm sorry. I just really think 85 should have come in second, and it didn't because, no one knows. No one knows the power of 1985. Anyway, cripes, what do I have left? You know what? Why not? Let's talk about the PlayStation VR. I haven't been doing my PlayStation VR segment in a while because, I realize not a lot of people really care except for me, and I haven't been keeping up as closely because so many games kept getting pushed back. Speaking of games getting pushed back, before we get to PlayStation VR, hey, guess what? Remember last week when I was complaining about Summon Night 6 and how it's being translated by Gaiju Works, who's basically working designs, and how they are legendary for their game delays? Yeah, their game got delayed again. So Summon Night 6 won't be the end of this month. Whatever. Anyway, PlayStation VR. This is a good month for it because we're getting both Farpoint and Star Trek Bridge Crew, unless Star Trek Bridge Crew gets pushed back again. And we got Polybius earlier, along with the Passengers VR experience, which looks like it might be kind of neat, and that Moonshot Golf. That was all this week. We got a lot of... It looks like we got a lot of PlayStation VR games coming. In fact, I'm hearing something about a game called VR Karts, which was a kart racer for VR that's coming out in Europe either today or tomorrow. I don't know anything about a US release. I'd assume it would be soon, but who knows? So yeah, there's a lot of interesting activity on the PlayStation VR front. And yet, things are... I've often joked about how it... Well, not really joked, it's the truth. That how the PlayStation VR exists in a bizarre limbo state between being a huge success and a massive failure. Well, we've got a good example of that. Get this. Sony is actually increasing PlayStation VR production because it's selling so well and they need to get more out there. However, the PlayStation VR only has 3 stars on Japanese Amazon, and IGN has deleted the VR section of their website. There is no, separate VR section for news. Then again, apparently their coverage of it was pitiful, as they barely talked about anything. In fact, if you want any PlayStation VR news, you just go to the PlayStation VR subreddit. Because, there, you have people who actually care, and they'll report news to one another. People who, keep an eye out. That's where I get all my PlayStation VR news, because literally every other site is useless for it. The dedicated VR sites, they tend to be a little bit more... They're okay, but they tend to focus a lot on all the VR things, which makes sense. But, yeah, PlayStation VR, you gotta go to the subreddit for it. So, yeah, IGN just isn't even really covering that anymore. It's amazing. So what else do we have here? I don't know what else there is to say. I thought I had more words to say, but it's just, the King's Avatar is a good time, and Polybius is a good time, and I'm questioning Dynasty Warriors 9. Big time. And I'm super salty that I don't know what to do about Injustice 2. I want it for Power Girl. I don't want to have to pay friggin' $100 just for that character. And it's will I still be able to, how long are you going to make me wait? Speaking of which, Street Fighter V, their pre-order DLC costumes are finally available for free. And it's geez, I don't want to wait that long. I almost don't even care about this game without Power Girl, okay? It's the whole reason I want it. I don't really like NetherRealm Studios fighters, but, there are certain things that make you say, I need this game. I don't even know what to say. I'm really annoyed at Injustice 2 right now. Again, not as much as Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Man, things are just getting stupid. I hope the game is on the disc. I love that that's a statement I can make. I hope the game is actually on the disc after all this. Because we actually sometimes get developers who will release a game without the game on the disc. Or barely a game on the disc. I'm just kind of pissy about Starblood Arena. Because Starblood Arena, there's data on the disc, but it's just training mode. You can't play the main game without an internet connection to download the single player. I think you have to be online to play the single player, which I have talked about how much I don't like. I could make a list of all the stupid things wrong with modern video games, and that would top the list. Sometimes the game isn't on the disc, and they will just vanish from existence in 20 years. You don't know how bad it's going to be when they shut down those Xbox 360 servers. I'm going to tell you a little secret. All the patches for your 360 games, they're not on your hard drive. That's right. Microsoft actually saves their 360 patches to their cache. Meaning that when you've downloaded too many patches, which doesn't take a lot, it will delete the older patches to put new ones in. Some games really needed patches to function. A lot of games really needed patches to make their DLC accessible. Some games will not be able to load old saves if they don't have the correct patch version. And in the future, when those 360 servers go down, we are going to be so out of luck. It is going to be such a pain in the butt to get these games to run. I'm just hoping Rhythm Party still works in the future. I already know, Rumble Rose's Double X is probably a lost cause. That game got so many patches. And I know the patches are necessary for the DLC and to load the saves, and I want to think about it. I probably shouldn't admit that I put 200 hours into that game, but I did. What are my most played games? Yeah. That's just one of the problems. Other problems with modern video games include hour-long freaking tutorials. I need to sit down and think about all the things that make me punch myself in the face. Oh yeah, like prioritizing visuals over responsive controls. I really hate, like, the controls in the new Tomb Raider because they're so horribly unresponsive because they wanted to make it, they wanted to make the visuals flow super well, which to their credit, they do. It's very, very impressive animation that they have going on here, where Lara actually reacts to the environment and, like, steadies herself by putting her hand against the wall and stuff. It makes it all very realistic, and it means that there's a huge delay in when she actually responds to my actions on the... Hello, you are listening to 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. I'm your host, Jell, with GameBabble Live, our video game news and information show which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m., and we will continue to do so all summer long, running out of content throughout the summer gaming drought. Although it's not quite as droughty this year. Like, May's pretty nice. We got Injustice, and Tekken, and Guilty Gear Exard, and Farpoint, and Star Trek Bridge Crew, which I'm still really excited for. Yeah, better summer than most, right? Unfortunately, it is still summer. At least we're gonna have E3 eventually, and that'll just be a dump of stupid information. But as for today, I think the only other thing I have to mention is that someone did a Kickstarter for a Deadly Premonition board game, and it got funded instantly because people want a Deadly Premonition board game. Okay. If you're unfamiliar with Deadly Premonition, it is a very strange, low-budget, open-world horror game that was originally meant to be on Dreamcast, apparently? Either way, it's kind of based on Twin Peaks, and it's made by a crazy guy named, Sweary65? I forget the numbers at the end of his name, but good old Sweary. It is not his best game, but it is one of the stranger ones, because he does a very good job of recreating the peculiarities of just small-town America. I would actually call it a good job, yes, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, but everyone in that game is so weird. Yeah, so is small-town America. Same with, oh, jeez. Deadly Premonition is magical. I mean, that is a game where whenever you drive a car, the main character, Francis York Morgan, starts talking to his imaginary friend Zach about old movies. And how do you even describe Deadly Premonition? It's a very weird game, and it does not play well at all. It is kind of a garbage game, but it's magical. So, yeah, that's the thing. I can probably recap some things. I mean, mention that new character, Ed, has been revealed for Street Fighter V. Polybius is out. It does not require for PlayStation 4. It's from Jeff Minter. Does not require PlayStation VR. It is good old school rainbow psychedelic fun. The VGCW, which is the big fan wrestling game custom character league thing, is over because the WWE 2K14 servers are down, so they can't really get any new characters without making them themselves, which is severely stunting their growth and their desire to continue onward. Also, we suspect their PlayStation 3 is probably about to explode. And Eterno Blade 2 is in the works for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. KOF 14 is coming to PC. Vanquish also coming to PC. That one's on May 25th. Injustice 2 has revealed its first wave of DLC characters. They will be Red Hood, Sub-Zero, and Starfire, and it is very much comic Starfire and not TV show Starfire. Yeah. And I told y'all about a Chinese animated show called The King's Avatar, which is about esports, and it's shockingly awesome, and it can just be found on YouTube on the official company's channel. It was good times. In spite of China's weirdness of not admitting that Taiwan is a country. Apparently it's illegal in China to say that Taiwan is a country. Because China is convinced they still have Taiwan. It's just so if you just deny reality, you can have any country you want to. So I currently own Canada, because I said so. What? What are you going to do about it? It's illegal to say I don't. Yeah, in my country of Jelzakistan, which is the 10-foot area around me. It's a country. It moves, but it's a country. Logic, it has no place here in Jelzakistan. But enough goofing around. I also mentioned that the PlayStation VR is, I always say, exists in a limbo state between a big success and a big failure. Sony's increasing production, but it's not getting that good of reviews in Japan, and IGN has deleted the PlayStation VR section of their website. Yeah, I just don't even know. That's what we got. Oh yeah, and I complained about Dynasty Warriors 9, because the next Dynasty Warriors game is going to actually attempt to be open world, and I'm getting bad Dynasty Warriors 6 flashbacks of the last time they tried to make this big of a shakeup in the Dynasty Warriors series to make it more realistic, and it's like, I don't think you're going the right direction. I don't know how they're going to do two-player split-screen co-op that way, and I know a bunch of people are like, oh, two-player split-screen co-op is a thing of the past. I'm like, exactly, that's a problem. That's why we don't have more VR games, because to do VR, you have to display two images, and so it's basically the same as trying to do two-player split-screen. In terms of, like, system strain and stuff. And it's just dumb. Just one of the things that annoys me about modern game development is just people are so obsessed with getting absurd graphics out of a system that they don't think about how well it'll run, and actually getting games that run at a solid 60 FPS is weirdly rare. Getting games that are willing to do split screen is rare. Split screen 60 FPS is nearly impossible. It's always been that way. It was annoying last generation where people were just not doing split screen. Because, oh, well, we've got the internet, so we'll just play the multiplayer that way. Couch co-op is underrated. There's just something funny about, okay, the N64 did all sorts of split screen, but the Xbox 360, whew, that's too much to ask. I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. Of course I'm rambling at this point. I literally run out of news. I'm looking, I swear, there was like a pile of news, and then the news just went away. The news became unnews. It was not as, newsy. Ooh, I have a topic. Let me have a topic for after the break. I, forgot about that. Hang on, let me add that to the list. Yeah, we'll talk about that after the break. Trying to see if there's any news that I'm missing here that would be newsworthy, and I'm just... Apparently it's, Oh no, that's not it. Yeah, we got nothing. Oh no, I'm dying out here. Yeah. You know what you should do? You should enjoy a good drink with 2 Chainz. Because I'm kicking you back to that diverse music for your diverse mind. Here on 89.5 FM KCFE The Wave. This is my worst show. I'm sorry. But next week will be better. I don't know why next week. You know what? Oh my goodness, I forgot. Yeah, Anime ST. I'm sorry. Okay, let's back up. Rewind. I went outside. That means my brain has melted. The sun is bad for my thinking thing. And as such, I've completely forgotten that this weekend is Anime STL, the big anime convention here in Missouri, in St. Louis. And then weekend after that is ASEN. And I will be at Anime STL with the rest, well, with a bit of the 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave crew. We will be there live streaming to the KCFV Facebook, which is something that I lost because the computer decided to crash. Probably because Facebook is garbage. You could quote me on that one. Jeez. So I'll have to ask what our Facebook is again. Is it KCFV The Wave? It might be KCFV. Nope, it's not. Hello and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show which airs every Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. and will continue to do so all throughout the summer gaming drought so that way I can run out of content on the air more often. But I've got things to talk about, like Anime STL, which is going to be this weekend, and we're going to be there. At least some of us. I'm going to be there. And we're going to be streaming video live from the event. And it will be on our Facebook page at KCFV The Wave. So Facebook.com/KCFV The Wave. Again, Facebook.com/KCFV The Wave in case you want to bookmark it. And I admit, Facebook is a gigantic pile of garbage. See, the problem with Facebook is that if you do not have a Facebook account, then it makes trying to browse any of its pages nearly worthless because it puts a big old thing saying, hey, you want to read more of this guy's Facebook? You should sign up for Facebook. Hey, it takes up half the screen. Oh, now it's taking up more of the screen. Thanks a lot. But signing up for Facebook means you have to use your real name and address and a lot of personal information I would rather not have out on the internet. So and it's really particular about you trying to use fake names because technically you're not supposed to. And then, sometimes it just does weird things. There's a reason why I haven't been promoting any sort of, GameBabble Facebook page, is because I've kind of got two of them, and I don't know how to get into the one I prefer, because it exists in a bizarre limbo state between being registered and not. And then I have another one, and I don't know what to do about the previous one. Because I can't delete it, because I can't get it. Facebook's a mess. Seriously, screw Facebook. Screw Facebook so hard. I hate Facebook. I don't like putting my real name out there on the internet, and I have good reason for that, because I have had some interesting at least one person did try to attempt to ruin my life by contacting people that I knew, especially through Facebook, but thankfully, I did not use my real name on that account. I seldom do on the internet. So, he couldn't get very far with that. He could contact a few of my friends, which did all of nothing. But I have reasons to not want to put my real name on the internet. But speaking of which, isn't net neutrality under attack again? Go hit up, Google and, in Firefox or whatever, and you'll see a link to that, this keeps happening where people are like, oh, we're going to try to get rid of net neutrality. Don't do it. Don't try to get rid of net neutrality. We kind of need that. Because otherwise, companies can do complete BS. For example, they can say, oh, if you want to use Netflix, you have to pay a premium. Because, a lot of ISPs are grumpy about people streaming video. And they can actually be like, oh, they can, throttle your access to certain sites. And be like, oh, if you want streaming video service, you have to pay us more per month. So that way you're paying for the streaming video service and you're paying a double subscription fee then. And all I can say to that is screw you. Because that's such complete BS. There aren't even words for it. That's just the beginning of things. There is a reason to want to stay relatively anonymous on the internet. There are certainly unscrupulous people out there who will use your personal information in very bad ways, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on. Because people are freaking crazy, and some of them think that they're completely justified in doing things like that. So, net neutrality, smidge important. Just a smidge. I don't know, and I admit, I don't know all the details. I just know enough to say, okay, yeah, the things that would happen if that was weakened or broken down would cause chaos and anarchy and riots in the streets. So it's best just not to, because we got enough riots as it is. Anime STL. We'll be streaming that to facebook.com/KCFV The Wave, and we're going to try to interview some voice actors. I'm going to be trying to interview some voice actors. We'll be having a good time. We'll see what goes down. I think there will be fun times to be had there, and we'll be there all weekend. So, yeah, let's go be fun. In other news, I wanted to rant about one more thing before, wrapping this show up, because I just realized, hey, it's 2:30, so the show's almost over. And that is actually Mario Kart 8's smart steering. You see, infamous internet personality Jim Sterling did a big old video about how great the smart steering was because it lets smaller children be able to play Mario Kart 8, as well as people with physical disabilities, and that's a wonderful thing. More accessibility is great. And I, in general, agree, especially when it's super optional. The only issue, and we both agree on this, is the fact that Nintendo doesn't tell you about smart steering. Video games these days don't really come with instruction books. There's no real options menu. And smart steering actually starts turned on in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and in order to turn it off, you have to go to your kart's stats and then press the button to get rid of the antenna. It's not labeled. It doesn't say smart steering. Apparently Nintendo's allergic to words. They just think everyone knows, if there's an antenna on the back of your car, it controls itself. I spent a good couple hours just baffled by what that option was supposed to do. And yeah, you can turn on auto accelerate and smart steering, and the game does kind of sort of play itself. And trust me, if anyone knows about games playing themselves, it's me. But to their credit, if you use smart steering, you cannot get a maximum drift boost. It will prevent you from taking a lot of the shortcuts. And in general, you will be doing worse than players who don't use it. So in general, I agreed with all of this, with one exception. 200cc. And the moment I realized that is the moment things fell apart. 200cc is an extra mode they added as DLC to Mario Kart 8. And what it is, it is a mode where you can go faster than the tracks were designed for. You go stupid fast in 200cc. You go so fast it literally breaks the game and turns it into a completely different game. Mario Kart 8 150cc and Mario Kart 8 200cc, completely different games. Completely different. Because you actually have to use the brakes. In regular Mario Kart, the brakes are almost useless. I almost wonder if the game is even designed to use brakes. That's how useless they are. But in 200cc, you need the brakes. You will fall off the track. And you will need to decelerate. Unless you have smart steering on. Smart steering prevents you from falling off the track. And that means you don't need to use the brake, and that means you don't need to stop accelerating. And I think that in 200cc, that actually gives way too big of an advantage, which would be fine if it was offline only. Unfortunately, smart steering can be used online. And I do believe can be used online in 200cc, which is a game breaker, and that is something I am against. But at the same time, I'm against the way they're handling 200cc. Because 200cc should be a separate mode. Like I said, it's a completely different game. And in Mario Kart 8's online mode, when you're doing just the random public matches, it randomly selects if you're going to do 100, 150, or 200cc. And no one likes this, because you have to use completely different carts for 200cc, and you're not told ahead of time. Because you need handling in 200cc because you're going faster than the tracks are designed for. Whereas in every other mode of Mario Kart 8, you would be using the one with the highest acceleration or the highest top speed. You need handling. That is how much not falling off the track matters in 200cc. And the fact that you can just have auto steering on completely breaks that. Like, if you're playing 200cc with smart steering on, you're playing a completely different game than everyone else, and you do have an unfair advantage. And at the same time, no one likes the fact that 200cc is mixed in with 100 and 150cc online, because that means that at random they'll play a completely different game. I'll be blunt, I actually do not enjoy 200cc, but I know people who do. So I would strongly recommend, I know Nintendo's not listening, but I like to pretend that they do. I would strongly recommend making 200cc a separate mode where auto steering is not allowed. Just a special experts-only mode. And I think that is absolutely necessary. This is one of those important little details that sometimes gets overlooked. Because Jim Sterling is, of course, a very abrasive commentator. And he likes to just say, oh, anyone who complains about this smart steering is a whiny baby, and they're stupid, and I don't like them, and you should point and laugh and make fun of them. You know what? Sometimes the whiny elitists have a reason to be whiny elitists. Unfortunately, having dealt with a lot of whiny elitists, the biggest problem with them is that a lot of them are really, really, really bad at articulating their points. If they explained how much smart steering utterly destroys 200cc Mario Kart, then it would be more clear. Now, it's here that someone's going to say, but wait, can't you make it so no one can use smart steering when you're playing online? Only in private matches, not in ranked matches, which is almost the inverse of how it should be. So, and yeah, to do a private match, you have to just invite friends to your match, and again, you don't get points for it. In the online ranked matches, you can use smart steering, and because of how big a difference that makes for 200cc, that is a game breaker. So they really need to separate out 200cc as its own special experts-only mode. And they need to make it so smart steering is not allowed. You can do smart steering offline in 200cc. That's perfectly fine and super fun. I've done that, and I actually really enjoy it. So I know you'd be surprised that I'm complaining about it, but I'm looking at it from a logistical standpoint. Smart steering 200cc is a completely different game from smart steering not 200cc. And it's just, the two are incompatible. You can't do that. Like I said, when elitists are complaining about something, sometimes there's a reason behind it, but they're just really, really astonishingly bad at articulating their points. Now, I speak from experience, because, again, I've talked to a lot, and there's some that I still disagree with, because I like fighting games. I've always been a big advocate of putting more defensive options in fighting games. I've gotten a surprising amount of pushback. I've had hardcore fighting gamers try to tell me that rolling wake up is completely broken. It's like, but rolling wake up was standard issue in games in the, I'd say, 96, 97, 98 era, and then it just vanished. To the point where when I talk about rolling wake up, people get confused. They're like, do you mean teching? No, okay. Well, rolling wake up is actually standard in 3D fighters. It's just rare in 2D fighters. When I say rolling wake up, I mean when you get knocked down, hard knockdown, you're laying on the ground, you can hold left or right to roll in that direction as you're getting up off the ground. This was definitely in Darkstalkers. It was overemphasized and became the core of Waku Waku 7, hence why I'm such a big fan of it, and was, I swear it's in some of the Versus games. I know it was in Red Earth. It used to be a standard issue thing. Rolling wake up was pretty common. And like I said, it's in 3D fighters. When you get knocked down a 3D fighter, you hold a direction, and you roll in that direction when you get up. I don't understand why it's bad in 2D fighters, other than that it ruins Okiseme, or ground pressure. What we mean by ground pressure is the ability to do a move that forces, while your opponent is on the ground, to force them to do something. The best example is like throwing a projectile, like a Hadouken, or a green note, over a downed opponent, so that way when they get up, they need to immediately start blocking, or they get hit in the face with a projectile. I've never liked this, because I happen to have played against a pro Eno player in Guilty Gear XX, who abused the crap out of this to completely ruin the game for even some of the most hardcore Guilty Gear fans. I'm not even making this up. There was a guy here, used to live in Missouri, who ran a couple Guilty Gear tournaments locally in the area. And he was so obsessed with Guilty Gear that when XX came out in Japanese arcades, he imported the arcade board and jerry-rigged a way to play it up using arcade sticks, a Dreamcast, the arcade board, and a Commodore 64 monitor. Not kidding. He did this because he just couldn't wait for Guilty Gear XX. He imported all the parts. He ran a few tournaments. And one day, a Guilty Gear Double X arcade cabinet showed up at Northwest Plaza. So you know how long ago this was. And the local, Guilty Gear scene agreed that they would meet up at the arcade machine to support it. And this guy showed up, and he was raving about how great Guilty Gear is. Now it's the greatest fighting game ever, and it's super deep, and it's like the 2D equivalent of Virtua Fighter, and it's so good, and it's so great. And then he fights my friend. He fights my friend, who's very good at Eno. He comes back from that complaining endlessly about how the match devolved into just a simple high-low choice at the beginning. And if you screw up, you are done for the entire match. There is nothing you can do. He just has you on complete lockdown. You're just ruined. And he was just complaining and complaining. And before that match, before those couple of matches against my friend, Guilty Gear was the greatest game ever made. After that, the guy was pretty much done with Guilty Gear forever. He moved to Japan and played Virtua Fighter instead. Not even joking. That was a thing that happened. That is a legend I like to tell people, but it's true. I fought this guy. You may as well not even have a controller. It's not like it's going to do anything. The only way to win against him is to use Milia, because Milia moves faster than any other character, and thus there's a split second where you can get out of the freaking Okiseme nonsense that my friend who uses Eno does in Guilty Gear. Split second that you can just sneak away if you are the fastest of the fast characters in the game. I wonder if Chip would work. Is Milia actually faster than Chip? Doesn't matter, Xrd is here. Xrd is here, and my friend has pretty much retired from Guilty Gear because Accent Core was a broken mess, according to him. Basically, they made some changes that made both of his main characters useless, and yeah, so he quit Guilty Gear after that. But he was very good with Eno, and beating him was a nightmare. But that is a large part of why I'm like, no, we need Rolling Wake Up, because if I had Rolling Wake Up, I would have been able to get out of his green note nonsense, because that was the thing. He had horrible ground pressure crap that he would pull that would utterly destroy me. And that's why I'm like, they should bring back Rolling Wake Up. And then everyone's like, no, that gives defensive players too many options. And I think this is a problem in the fighting game community. I know, I've kind of gotten spun off here. Is that we're so obsessed in the fighting game community with attacks. We want more offense. And you know what happens when you have too much offense? You wind up with a game where the match starts, someone gets hit, they go into a combo, and then the match ends. I used to call it Samurai Kirby, but I guess the more appropriate term for it now would be Dive Kick, because the game Dive Kick is literally a parody of this phenomenon, where just one single strike at the beginning of a match in some fighting games will determine the whole match. Because as soon as someone gets hit, they go into a combo. That combo does 100% or near 100% damage, and then that's it. It's also been referred to as the Touch of Death. Very common in the Marvel vs. games, especially Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And, yeah, I don't think that should happen. I don't think that should happen at all. One of the reasons why I like the new Killer Instinct, in fact, because the combo breaker system that they put in there is actually pretty clever and fun, and I like what they do with it. But yeah, I think fighting games could use more defensive options, and I've butted heads with elitist fighting game fans a lot, but I do understand where they're coming from, where it's like, hey, this would destroy all my current strategies, and would change the game up a lot, but it is one of those things where I think they should try it out. But I'm not going to completely discredit the elitist hardcore fans, because sometimes they have a point that they're just really, really bad at articulating, like I explained with Mario Kart 8. So there you go, that's where I stand on Mario Kart 8's smart steering. I think it could use some tweaks. I think it should be banned from 200cc. I kind of don't like it in 150cc, but I'll let it slide. It's not that bad there, because you really don't need the brakes in 150cc, and they don't get the level 3 boost or get to use the shortcuts, so those are all things that'll still give me an edge when playing Mario Kart. And I'll be honest, like 200cc discourages me from playing the game because I can do really good online in 100, 150cc. I can get, top 5, often top 3 when I play online. 200cc, oh no, I'm at the bottom, back of the pack, getting lapped. Can't do it. Too fast. Gotta go too fast. Anyway, that was a whole lot of rambling. But hey, if I managed to pull this show out of a nosedive, right? Right? Oy vey. So, I think I'm going to kick you back to the music because it is 2:53 p.m. And this show airs every Wednesday from noon to 3. So, we're wrapping up. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of GameBabble Live. We'll be back again next Wednesday with who the heck knows what. But there will be something, whether it's crazy anime STL stories, or some interesting piece of news, or just me providing some video game history. I've got a From Software episode on the back burner for emergencies, which I would have used today, but I forgot to pack the supplies. So maybe we'll crack into some video game history to fill time again, because that's what I do. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed GameBabble Live. I will be at Anime STL all weekend with some of the KCFV crew. We'll be streaming to facebook.com/KCFVTheWave. So I hope you'll tune in for some of that nonsense. And, see you next week. Wednesday from noon to 3 p.m. And I'll be doing that all summer long, so I hope you enjoy. Anyway, this is Jell with 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Please enjoy and thank you. Oh, and the next song up is Arsonist's Lullaby by Hosier. Thank you and enjoy.